Long time no see.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Car Addiction. Today, it's an awesome day. We got Mac. Mac is cool, really cool. He loves me. And we got Drew. Today we want to talk about the car scene in Ontario, specifically all the tracks around Ontario, knowledge about the tracks around Ontario, how to get into a track, what kind of costs involved in it, track safety. Drew is an expert in terms of these things, so he will chime in and all of that, and especially the brotherhood that comes out of these tracks. So tell me about yourself.
Hey, I'm Drew from Falcon Autospot. I'm the founder. We organize track days here in Ontario. I came along to hopefully dispel and kind of disprove any misconceptions people might have and discuss about why track days are probably right for you and why we're the proper alternative to the things that we've seen in the last couple of months in the car community. So Falcon Autosport is, we were founded in 2016 and we are probably one of the best track day groups in Ontario. Falcon Autosport being a track that, or a track day group, let's say, that goes between Ontario and Quebec. We hold events in multiple provinces even, and in the 5 years that we've been around for, we've actually done quite a number of track days, probably around 20 or so, and we've never once had any injuries, anybody getting hurt, and basically never even had any car-to-car contact, and really even having a big incident at all.
That speaks a lot about the preparation and the safety and even the driver training process of that.
It's I think a big portion of why that happens that way, that we don't have any crashes, that we don't really have any incidents. It comes down to just good planning on the event organizing part, having available instructors that are free at each event, having the opportunity to have a driver's meeting before the event, and just being able to kind of keep the things under control with multiple flag marshals around the track that we warn, hey, there's a spin, and we'll have a yellow flag or a red flag, or a way to communicate with the drivers as they're going around the track. And I think that all these things together combine to make track days that much safer than anything you can do on the roads. And that's why we have them.
Absolutely, there's not even an argument. Like all these, especially the young blood, they want to take their aggression out in a public road, and then there is so many instances of them getting other people in danger. While a track day event, like, actually I don't want to skip ahead of the conversation, so let's start with the available tracks in GTA and then outskirts of GTA and in Ontario in general.
So at the moment there are about 6 tracks that currently exist in Ontario that are running track days. To start the furthest most south, we've got the Grand Bend Motorplex, which is one of my favorite because the staff there is wonderful. Seriously, hi to Paul and Tim. Fantastic organization in general. Everyone there is really friendly. You've got Toronto Motorsports Park, good enough track, pretty awesome track. I love especially the organized events by the Razor Motorsports, for example, there, another track day group. From there we go north a little bit more to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Fantastic track again. I really get along well with the organizers and the staff and the flag marshals there. Wonderful people that really keep you safe. They're probably the safest in terms of the level of training the flag marshals will get as a result of their marshal service, motorsports marshal service, and the full training that they receive there is the best in the province, guaranteed. The next track going north from Grand Bend Motorplex, where we started, is Shannonville. The Shannonville Motorsports Park under new management.
That's probably one of the most popular tracks and the tracks with the most events.
I would say, yeah, especially kind of in the east and northeast GTA between CTMP and Shannonville, you have a lot of events there because the 2 tracks are relatively close with only just a couple of hours between them, maybe an hour or 2.
Yeah.
And I love Shannonville just because it's such a cool place because they've got multiple layouts that you can run, so it always feels fresh when you go there. And then we've got Calabogie is the last track in Ontario. Calabogie Motorsports Park with Greg is the owner there, and he's a fantastic fella. Very good to chat with and quite professional and quite friendly and welcoming.
One of my friend Brian, and we were having this discussion about he's looking for a track with VMAX, something like a kilometer long drag strip or something. Is there anything available like that?
Mosport GP is a very good option for a high-speed track. The Mosport Grand Prix.
You hear that, Brian?
nowadays it's called the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park Grand Prix Circuit. It actually hosted the Canadian Grand Prix several years, including 1969, for example. That one was before the Montreal Circuit de Villeneuve was built, but a fantastic track with huge amounts of elevation change. Going around some of the corners there, it'll kind of come up and it'll drop you down, and the car will kind of go light at the top and compress as you come down, and it gives you so much grip when that compression comes in.
It's awesome.
It's a fantastic ride along, a fantastic
I got
roller
butterflies. Butterflies in my tummy.
Yeah, like do you know sometimes you're rolling around on a nice road and there's a little bit of a kick there?
Yeah.
Imagine that at like 150, 160 kilometers an hour. Fully turned, I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gets the heart going.
Of course.
That's one of the things that you do track days for, is to get the heart going with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for somebody off the street to get into their first track day, what are the steps they should follow? How to book their spot and how to get ready for it?
Well, for starting out at your first track day, I strongly recommend that you get everybody who wants to go in the car a helmet. It doesn't necessarily have to be the top of the line greatest Hans device equipped helmet. You can get a hybrid Hans device, which is one that doesn't require the seats and everything, because it'll attach to the helmet and kind of protect your neck. But you don't necessarily need to get something like that. If your car is just kind of a Jaguar or a Skyline with no roll cage, for example, you don't have to go huge with the helmet. But I would say it's just good to have one.
Would a standard motorcycle helmet work?
Yes, for an M2010 and newer is generally the spec that we're looking for these days. Anything that is of that standard is quite a good helmet for your safety. The only exception I would make to that is if you have a roll cage. I would not recommend a motorcycle helmet. Motorcycle helmets are not intended for being used in a car with a roll cage, because they're not built to withstand the impact against a roll cage.
Now, do you need a full face or a half face is fine?
That comes down to the same thing. I would say if you have a roll cage bar that's kind of close to your head, I would say you would probably want that full face helmet. I would strongly advise a full face helmet unless there's a reason why. You know, a lot of people, for example, with rally, we will have the a half helmet, but then there's just an intercom.
A mouthpiece.
Yeah, so that the driver and co-driver can chat with each other, and that isn't necessarily available in other forms of motorsports that aren't rally, for example.
So I guess for an individual point of view, let's say myself, I want to show up at a track day, and I have just a regular car without a roll cage, a Mustang, BRZs. These are very popular platforms these days. Just a motorcycle helmet or a half helmet, but M10 or M12 category.
From M2010 or newer, which is the Snell rating that you would see on the inside of the helmet. If you're not sure, you could always ask somebody about if they would show you even how to check the Snell SA2010 or M2010 or newer rating on the helmet, and just make sure. For example, on most helmets, I would say that you can open it up, kind of look inside, and there's going to be an orange sticker that's going to say Snell 2010, M2010, or so on, such as that.
So what kind of costs are we talking about to basically book a day?
So I'll give it kind of an example of what you might do to prepare the car, just to be sure that you're not going to have a bad experience. I would say you would get probably about 2 bottles of the Motul RBF 600 or equivalent. Motul RBF 600 is available for about
that's for
20,
brake fluid, right?
24, yeah.
Okay, so that's the 600 degrees Fahrenheit brake fluid. You don't want your brakes to boil. And that's a DOT.4.
Yep, it is a .4. So for most cars, it would actually work with the standard braking system.
Yeah.
The only thing I would mention is that it does change your service interval. You would change it more regularly than you would if it was a .3 that you would normally get from...
So when you say regularly, what kind of interval? Like 10,000?
For example, with my Civic, every 2 years I'll be doing a full brake flush, and after every couple of track days I'll do the brake bleeding, just to make sure that there's no air in the system at all. Most people won't necessarily attack as aggressively as I drive with my Time Attack Civic. Most people won't necessarily have to bleed their brake after every session. With, I would say, a good brake fluid and just a good brake pad, you'd be looking at about maybe $200, $300 for the full season. So if you do maybe 4 track days a year, that's $75 to add.
Yeah.
So if we say, for example, the Falcon Autosport event, maybe it costs around $250. Other track days you can get in for around $200
And this is for the whole day.
a full day.
Now, do keep in mind, even though it is for a whole day, you shouldn't be driving a whole day. You should be 10-minute on, half an hour off, or 15-minute on, half an hour off. So if you plan to drive the whole day, come with 4 sets of cars. I guess.
Yeah. I haven't seen anybody physically able to do a full track day without...
It's impossible. You're human.
Yeah, without physical preparation. You know, like you have to work out, you have to be in the peak of your physical shape to be able to even sit in a race car or a car that's on the track even for that long.
That's great information because a lot of people, especially, let's say me, I'm fat. Let's put it that way. I'm proud of it.
Even back
Okay.
here,
So, and you would think, yeah, we'll sit on it and we'll do a track day. It's not that easy. It's just not. It takes a toll on your body.
and that's one of the things that I would absolutely suggest, let's say. Bring some Gatorade or some water or something to be able to hydrate yourself. Keep yourself hydrated, to be able to keep yourself cool. You know, it's never a bad idea if you want to bring like a cooler full of ice and just put a cloth in it, and you'll be able to kind of pat your head down to keep your body temperature down, help to fight off something along the lines of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. My Civic, I was driving to Quebec for an event that we had at Falcon Autosport at the Circuit Mécaglisse in Saint-Agathe-des-Monts area in the Laurentide Mountains of Quebec. Fantastic, wonderful track, but driving there we got stuck in stop and go traffic, just somewhat near Shannonville actually, and my body was overheating with the lack of air conditioning, lack of airflow in the car, and the car had to turn the heater on so it wouldn't overheat. And
it's already probably a 30-degree day, and you had the heater.
Gotta protect the car.
Of course. I actually, in this one, I got no heat, no AC. All I have is a giant intercooler, a giant front-mount intercooler, a giant radiator, and a giant oil cooler.
No, that's completely cool, man. Like, if you know the tricks, let's say, to keeping yourself cool, like taking a break, you know, pull over, say, hey guys, we were all driving up, all the staff were together. I said, hey guys, I'm not feeling well. I think I'm going to get heat exhaustion. I need to pull over.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, because the last thing you want to do is be sick.
Yep.
You know, and people understand. And one thing he mentioned, without mentioning, is he mentioned that the crew never go alone on a track day. Find friends, make friends, or even take friends who are probably not participating, but you know, just there to enjoy the track day. Never go alone. Just like four-wheeling, you don't go alone in four-wheeling.
No. Something I'll say, even if you don't necessarily have a friend before going to the event that's available, you go to the event and you chat with somebody, you'll probably make a friend there.
It's super easy, because it's so hard to explain. The people over there are so cool, so friendly. You will probably, like in a couple of track days, you'll find a best friend that's awesome, like probably wrenching with you in your car off a track day. So that's kind of brotherhood that you just won't find road racing.
And something I'll mention on that topic is, if you go to a track day, almost everybody has the same intentions in mind. Everybody wants to have the fun, bring their car home in one piece, and really just enjoy the day and go home with high fives and handshakes and say it was cool to meet you, and build lifelong friendships, and you know, maybe, hey, I like those wheels, are they for sale? Oh yeah, they're for sale, and $1,000 and networking and all sorts of things like that exist at track days that are just fantastic. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and I think a lot of people overlook that, let's say.
Because they're not there, they don't see it, and nobody advertises that part. I can hear you too. All right. So, how a typical track day looks like from beginning to an end.
So at the beginning of the morning, the first step is usually, for most events, to check in or to register. So for us, we call the registration at Falcon Autosport the registering on the site, saying, hey, I'm coming. And then we have a check-in process when you're there. We just kind of, hey, could you sign this waiver, please? Could you sign this if you want to take photos of the photography agreement, and just things like that just kind of help to keep the event organized and just get people in the right mindset from the beginning. And then we have a driver's meeting before anyone goes out on the track. The driver's meeting is going to go over flag rules, it's going to go over just passing rules, things that you want to know to keep yourself and everybody around you safe. But Yeah, basically, anytime that you start a track day with a Falcon Autosport, it's always a good idea, we say, to do a lead-follow exercise at the very beginning of the track day, just so people kind of understand where the track goes, how the track
explain
looks.
the lead follow exercise meaning?
Okay. We have, at the very beginning of kind of a snake, if you will, of cars, an instructor, and then we'll have a couple of the students or the guests who are coming to the track day. And then we'll have another instructor, a couple more guests, and the way that it is, the closer that the car that's following can follow the lines that you are driving on, the better. So if you hit the brakes at a certain point, we're hitting that brake at that point on purpose, in the hopes and aspirations of demonstrating where we would brake on a hot lap, or if we were actually on a live track. So at that point we are live track, but we're going very slowly, about 60 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers per hour. And we're just kind of applying the brakes very gently, just to demonstrate where we would hit the brakes, turning the steering wheel at roughly the same point at where we would turn the steering wheel, and just demonstrating how we're going to drive the lap in order to show what the track looks like, show how we drive it, and give people some idea of kind of what they're going to experience when they're actually out there. It also helps even the experts, the people who have been there for 10, 15 events, to notice any
Changes in the track, changes in the tarmac.
Yeah, if there's a new bump has formed, or let's say if there's, like we had in March, we actually had about a bunch of snow across the track in one little spot. So we said, well, we're going to do a lead follow exercise to show everybody where the snow is. And that way they didn't hit the snow and slide off the track into the grass.
Speaking of snow, typically what people understand the track season is in summertime. Is it true?
You can find some winter events that are organized. They're very different, I would say, because for one thing, the speeds are much lower, being on snow and ice. Mm-hmm. The temperature is much cooler, so you wouldn't even necessarily have to worry very much about the
heat exhaustion,
the brakes, the heat exhaustion.
But also your tires don't heat up, does it?
Yeah. They do, perhaps a little bit, but it's nowhere near like it would be in the summertime, so there would be less tire wear even as well.
But also it affects the grip.
It does. Yeah, you would have significantly less grip and a much more of a slidey, kind of drifting type experience in the winters.
Sounds like fun.
Okay. I think that track days are fun.
Track days are fun, period. Yeah. Track days are fun, period.
Yeah, there's no day where I don't want to be at the track. If it's raining, I'm going to work on my rain driving. If it's sunny, great, we're going to set like maybe a new track record, set a new personal best, There's always something. You can always learn, or you can always work towards, or you can always, myself being an expert, I'm looking more at lap times and things like that, but for beginners, for people who are just getting started out, maybe they can learn something too, even that they can transfer to the road, or that they can even just use at the track the next time that they're there. Even if it rains, you're learning something. You're learning about wet lines, you're learning about different braking points, how to put your car about a half of a car width off of the dry line in order to find where the wet line is and find where the grip is, so that you're kind of in a spot where the car is still gripping well, but you're not kind of
like
throwing corners
out
away.
Of control.
Yeah, and it's something that even translates to driving on the road. Is like, if it gets to be a particularly snowy or icy or inclement day, I find that the people who have track day experience are the ones that are driving around 80, 90 kilometers per hour on the 100 zone, and they look like they're in complete control with no concerns of losing grip or anything at all, but they're looking so far ahead, like they've learned at the track, that they see trouble coming up ahead before it even happens. And it's things like that you learn that translate to the road so nicely.
Mm-hmm. So let's circle back on the day cost a little bit, and the other stuff that you were just mentioning.
So, keeping in mind that you have a car that maybe you've done the brake fluid flush with the high temperature brake fluid, you've done an oil change probably within the week or so before, or the day before, so that your car has very fresh oil. Engine oil is a very good thing to check before a track day for the reliability of the car and the quality and condition of the car. I would say it would be a fantastic idea as well just to plan a little bit more for the budget, about let's say $60 for petrol, gasoline, diesel, whatever your car takes, or whatever you call it. Being that my family being from Northern Ireland, we call it petrol. So, but basically anybody who wants to go out to a track day, I would say you would bring an extra bit for some fuel, let's call it.
Yeah. Snacks.
Yeah, for yourself as well, and a little bit for, let's say, snacks, food on the way there and back, or ice in a cooler if you have it, just that way you have something to cool yourself off with. You can put your drinks in that, preferably non-alcoholic if you're driving. But
well, definitely non-alcoholic, because you guys won't let them. Yeah. At that time, you're riding shotgun or you're enjoying the view.
I just try to like word it gentle.
Yeah. What I will add to the list he said is a diff oil and tranny.
Yeah, if that's within your wheelhouse, if that's within your knowledge, let's say, and your know-how, absolutely do it. If not, and you have the money, take it to a mechanic, have them do it. It will 100% help you to keep the car in good condition. Both of my cars have gearbox oil that's less than about a year or two old, and even the Civic.
The gearbox and diff oil, these are the two things are the most neglected on any enthusiast category vehicle, because people are like, yeah, every 10 years is fine. Is it?
I mean, not if you're doing a big burnout every day, or
no, man. The oil has an oil life, and maybe it didn't change the color or smell bad, but if the life is done, it's done.
Well, even from the, let's say, the chemical properties of it,
it breaks down.
Yeah, it'll be far too thin from, warming up when you drive and cooling down. Warm up, cool down, warm up, cool down. And it thins the oil just like it does the engine oil, to the point it doesn't lubricate as well. So your gears are going to have more friction, and that's just not good on them.
And that can become very expensive very fast, unfortunately.
You don't want to know how much a gearbox for the wrong car costs. That's quite an expensive thing. So
I rebuilt my Z32 gearbox last year.
A little bit of maintenance goes a long way to save costs in the long run. Doing it before the events and kind of keeping it fresh within maybe a year, within every couple of events, it really does so much to keep the things good.
I highly recommend going to an event with fresh set of heavier oil. In terms, let's say if your car takes 530, you're going to an event in the summertime, maybe go with the 1040, or some people do 2050. That's a different realm, but that's another day's discussion. We're going to talk about few oil, tires, and pads.
And just giving your car a once over before the event is a fantastic idea as well. As Sadun mentioned with the tires, for example, you want to make sure that you don't have cords showing in the tires. They don't necessarily have to be high grip tires. For a lot of beginners, I would say you want to start with the lower grip tire, simply so that you can get a feel for how your car behaves before you go step up to a big tire. And I'd just like to say, if you have more grip, sometimes it just means that you crash at a higher speed. You don't necessarily have to have high grip.
That I didn't know. I didn't know.
I like to say that because if you go into a corner and you're on for sort of semi-slicks, let's say, and that's a 160 kilometer an hour corner, you have less reaction time to be able to recover that because you have that much extra grip. The tires don't communicate as nicely the faster that they become, relative to a tire that's like, let's say, an all-season that's just squealing every time you go into a
a Michelin Pilot Sport, or like this one I have is a Continental Extreme Contact, which is not a track tire, it's just a good road tire.
And I think that a tire like that, if you're letting it cool down between sessions or kind of taking a cool down lap every third or fourth lap, will be fantastic, because you will have a very consistent level of grip, where it's not like with, for example, Bridgestone RE71R. They're very low grip until you get up to temperature, and they're very high grip, and it cycles through like this. And it's hard to stay on the high grip section. And if you go into a corner thinking you've got grip up here, or you've got high grip, good strong grip, and then the tires are still cold and they're actually down here, and you go in a bit quick, you're probably
surprise. Boo!
I've been in the car when people have had the mistake of having the cold tires, for example. Shout out to Tomo, you know who you are.
Okay.
You go into the corner and the car wants to come around, because, even especially on a front wheel drive car, the rear tires will take longer to heat up. Yeah. You go into the corner, you turn in, and it's very gradual, very smooth, even as I'm coaching him and saying, hey, it's cold today, let's start out really gentle, really very easy, very gentle. And even still, even though I was saying that, it was just a bit too much. Mm-hmm. The car had a little slide and he recovered it. Fantastic recovery. He was really driving well that day. Even still, the flag marshal was kind of like, hey, you had a big slide there, don't do that again. Because it wasn't necessarily a good spot to have that slide. There's a wall just just very close to the track that
You can possibly kiss.
yeah, it's quite easy to find your way into if you really aren't driving well, and they want to say, hey, be careful in that corner, there's a wall there. And that's something that a lot of flag marshals will do, is say, hey, next time you want to do that, choose a spot where there's less to hit, or don't drive to that limit of the car until you're ready to. And always just making sure that your tires are in good condition. And unless you're at a skill level like Tomo or myself or somebody who has like a tire that's very temperature dependent, I would say don't get a tire that you need to have it in the right operating window. Have a tire that is very communicative and very kind of breaks away more gradually, which is going to be a lower grip tire overall, but you're still going to have a lot of fun.
That also is easier on your wallet.
Yeah,
definitely.
If the tires last longer,
more economical to buy. The one I have, Continental the Extreme Contact, was 225, 45, 17 was 164 with taxes, where an RE71 would be somewhere around 240-ish. So, and times 4, right?
I actually had a sponsorship through Toyo Tires that I got about 30 or 40% off with the MSRP, give or take. And even still, it was around $1,000 for the tires.
For a set?
For the set of them, which it's not bad.
Is it the 888R?
It was the R1R, Roxy's R1R. A very good tire, like I was saying about the consistency of the temperature. That's a really good tire if you want to have a somewhat grippy tire that performs pretty well on track, but isn't as spiky peaky in its grip stability, let's say. It's very gradual and very communicative in that way.
So how about the atmosphere in a track day event, like other than the track on the other side of it?
So kind of the atmosphere of being kind of off of the track, let's say, I would say it is a truly wonderful, truly amazing kind of a feeling to be at the track if it's a family-friendly event, such as a lot of most track days I would say are. You can have kids, dogs, as long as they're just supervised and cared for. So maybe, for example, there's a field or two that's around the track. Almost always there is. You can play with the dog, just kind of throw the ball back and forth, for example, or kids can be there, get them a little bit tired out so that they can just kind of sit and watch the cars, and they love it. Kids love it, even dogs. This Mac comes to the track sometimes and he loves watching the cars go past. We had another dog named Murphy. Unfortunately, he lost his battle with cancer, but he was big into track days. He was out at almost every one. He would just kind of sit and watch the cars. Hey, is that Drew? And he would pay attention, like close attention to me, and he would know the sound of the car that I was in.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And they understand what's happening. They understand that it's just people having fun.
Now, is there a spot for a barbecue?
If you have a barbecue and you speak to the organizers, hey, can I bring my barbecue? And you can fit it into your car, or if you maybe have a
that's why you need friends with a truck.
Yeah. I have had barbecues going at a couple of my events. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I strongly encourage it because, again, it offers people that opportunity to stay hydrated, stay fed, and be in a good mental state.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about being in the right mental state for driving, where you're feeling good, you're confident, but you're not too confident. You just have this, like, I want to go out, I want to have fun, I want to learn mindset. You're going to have a great time with it, 100%.
That's awesome. That's literally what I wanted to hear. What do you think about the car scene in general in Ontario or Canada?
Well, growing up, I think being a car enthusiast was such an inspiration. I remember being a wee a very young child, let's say, behind the Canadian term. And I would watch the racing with my family, and it's still to this day a tradition that my family and I have, that my mom and I watched the Formula One Grand Prix in the morning. I watched BTCC with my dad, I watched WRC, Australian V8 supercars, and we grew up with racing. We would watch the Le Mans 24 hours, we would watch the Daytona 24 hours, if it was televised that year. And I grew up with that, so I started racing when I was 10, and I don't really know a life outside of racing and track days, time attack. For me, that's in my blood. It's like, you can't take that away from me. But I'm starting to think that the car community doesn't have that same interest. There's a lot of people that go out to events that I don't think are going to events with the right intentions, and I think if you go to a track day, you're more than likely expecting to see people having fun, having a good time. But it seems like recently, if you've been going to car meets, sometimes you haven't had the interest in the cars as much as maybe some unsavory people might have some other intentions of maybe creating trouble with the police or something like that. And I don't think it's right, and I think the average car enthusiast, the true car enthusiast, is the type who would say, no, this was a cool meet, but I'm leaving now. And I think that the average car enthusiast doesn't support it. And
Absolutely.
It's just a very small number of people that don't actually care about cars, that they're just looking for some way to rebel against the society.
Or attention in general.
In a destructive way, and get the attention that they crave. From the police, unfortunately for them.
Yeah.
But I get attention from dogs, from friends, from people that I care about, or the cat at home, or
things that are meaningful.
Yeah, like you can build a relationship with people, with dogs, cats. Having friends, having family, having kind of relationships that you're building is far more important, I would say, than to just have
10 minutes of...
Let's say, like 10 minutes of being the center of attention, and especially if something goes wrong, you don't want to be the center of attention. If you are doing donuts in an intersection and it goes wrong, you have the exact opposite kind of attention that you want. So the average person is going to think that you're a troublemaker. They're going to not think of you as a particularly skilled driver because you're just doing circles. It's not particularly difficult.
It's actually super easy.
And it's just kind of showing that you don't have the respect for the society that you're in, which means that you're going to be an outcast of that society because you don't respect it. And I think that it's the wrong outlook, the wrong message to take. And I think that going to a track day, everybody has that similar mindset of, let's go, let's have some fun. And I wouldn't change that. I am happy that the people that come to track days with me, I created Falcon Autosport because I wanted to get out to the track affordably and have a safe event with enough flag marshals, with safety standards that are sufficient, that I felt like it was a good event, and have the opportunity to invite like-minded individuals to join me at it. So a lot of times I reach out to people personally saying, hey, I'm going to have this event, and try to see if anybody wants to come out even before I've publicly announced the event, just because that way I get to have at least some friendly faces, some familiar faces, and that kind of controls the atmosphere in a way that it makes it certain that it's going to be a friendly event. And other times you'll announce it, and within the first 5 minutes, somebody that you know and that's familiar and friendly will actively join you and say, hey, I want to be part of that. And it's because they know you, they trust you, and you trust them, and you build this relationship.
And they had a positive outlook of it from the last couple of times they joined you, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I would like to add, Drew talked about the cost of a track day, and maybe it's to some younger viewers that yes, it may be a couple of $100, but the question is, what is the cost of creating a menace?
If you get busted at one of those car meets that goes wrong, or you get sick with COVID because you haven't socially distanced, you could end up in quite some trouble. The COVID, you're staying home from 2 weeks from work, for example. That's quite a significant amount of time.
In Ontario, especially in Ontario, our insurance is one of the highest in North America by far. And you get busted in one of those track days, or you get busted doing any shenanigans in public road, the license is gone for 30 days, car is gone for 7 days, and then you have a rap sheet in your license, which none of the tier 1 or tier 2 insurance companies will insure you, and you're left with tier 3 companies, and you're probably looking at $1,000, $1,200 a month on insurance. And then, every time you drive by, these police cop cars have these automated scanners. They scan your license plate, and this start raising flags. So, your drive to your work is a lot more stressful than anything else. So question is, what is the value behind it? Is it worth it?
I don't think it is.
There's absolutely no way it's worth it. Anyway, we don't want to dwell in the negative message or the mindset. The purpose of this video is to encourage the people, and especially the young crowd, people like me, people who are 16 and up, just getting into the car community. Invite them with wide open arms to track day events, to tracks where they can, exert some of the energy that's built in a safer environment. And the consequences are far less.
And I think if you have the inkling or the intention of driving on a track, I think it 100% has to be on the track. I think even if you do autocross, it's a very affordable alternative to track days. Autocross, I won't pretend like I do many of them. My interest is predominantly in track days, but autocross is a very good, cost-effective alternative to track days that is legal and that you won't get in trouble for attending, just like you wouldn't for a track day. If you have any questions about how to tell your insurance company, or whether to tell your insurance company that you want to do a track day or an autocross or something, reach out to me and I can personally help you with that.
His contact and all communication methods are in the description.
And I'm happy to help. I really am. if it's something where you have the intention of, hey, I want to do performance driving, I want to make it so it's at the track. I want to make it so that it's something where people feel like it's within their capability, like they're capable of doing it, that they know how they're doing. I can tell them, hey, here's the local autocross club if they want to try autocross, where you have like a, let's say a parking lot, let's say, that has just pylons kind of scattered about that you swerve through, and it's kind of a competition for the fastest time, for example. I can point you to the nearest track or the nearest autocross club in general that would be able to teach you, to show you the ropes of it, or direct you to the local kind of car club and see about, even if you're in America, where your local track is, or just anything along those lines of saying, hey, you know, who do I talk to get started? Just ask someone like me and I will happily steer you in the right direction there. And it's something that I'm happy to do just because I want to see it on the track where it belongs, or at an autocross event, time attack event, whatever your intention is, we can get you sorted. And it might not be, oh, I need a roll cage, oh, I need to, you know, trailer it because I'm not going to have insurance on it because the insurance company finds out you're at the track and they're going to cancel you. Well, no, it's not like that as much, and I'm happy to dispel some of the myths as well, because I think
we literally should do a video on that, on the insurance side of it.
And I'm happy to help with getting myths dispelled, getting people covered in for insurance, even if they want to take their $1 million car, $100,000 car to the track, then they want to have insurance on it. That is even available. There are certain stipulations that the insurance company will have about the event. For example, it must have multiple flag marshals, it must be not a timed event, it must be that well organized and safely organized. And that's something that an organizer will fill out forms, promise to the insurance company that runs this way, give them a plan for how the event runs. And there's so many things that the organizer does to make sure that if their event goes smoothly. And that insurance company that wants to cover that car for the track day wants to see those things. And so if you're going to just an open lapping day where it's open to the public and it's not organized with multiple flag marshals, there's just one kind of part-time flag marshal, I don't think it's safe enough.
Thank you for making it to the end of the video. It has been an awesome day. A lot of information for me to digest and for everybody else. All the information to contact Drew is down here, and feel free to reach out to him and he will try his best to give you all the relevant information. And hopefully we're going to schedule some days to talk about a little bit more on detail on the track environment. I would love to join you in one of your track days. That we're going to figure that out, and more about the car prep for a track day, and we'll talk about his time attack car.
Yeah, that would be an awesome
It's not a time attack car, or
it's one of the lower classes, but it does participate in the Ontario Time Attack T1 class at this point, or TA as they rechanged it to. But yeah, I got a podium there May 31st. Wow. The one round I did at Ontario Time Attack so far, got the podium, third place. Very, very hard fought battle. It was pretty close up front for the win. Thank you for having me, though, Sadun.
Awesome. It was very informative, and I hope we were able to achieve the intention of the video is to invite more people at my age and younger to the track days and to the track day events. So, you know, and introduce all the tracks in Ontario so that we just get the aggression out of the road to the track. Yeah. And make it a far better and safer environment for everybody else. Mac gotta make friends. Cut.